Captain Marvel. Not Brie Larson, but Captain Marvel. What the question then becomes, and a lot of people have actually asked this of the Russo bros, with Captain Marvel having grossed $1 billion leading up to the release of Avengers Endgame, why is it that Carol Danvers didn't play a larger part in the movie? People are legitimately asking this question because they're legitimately curious. And I have to actually kind of respond with my own legitimately curious question. Do y'all got brain damage? Why would you ask that question? Why would you legitimately want to see more of her character? Not even the character specifically, but it's like, it's not about her. All things considered, you could have removed almost all of Carol Danvers from this movie and then released her origin story after the fact, and nothing of value would have been lost. But according to the article here, the Avengers directors explain why she didn't have a bigger part in the movie. Finally kind of laying down a little bit of that truth, right? Finally kind of laying down a little bit of that truth about Captain Marvel and why she wasn't in Avengers. And again, people have legitimately been asking these questions, and I'm still trying to figure out why. It's pretty apparent. And the Russo brothers explain it in the best way possible, saying here that the directors of Avengers Endgame have explained why Captain Marvel didn't have a bigger part in the recent movie. The superhero, who was played by Brie Larson and whose real name is Carol Danvers, spent most of the film's runtime in another part of the universe. And as I previously stated, nothing of value was lost. Now, the Russo brothers have cleared up her lack of involvement. Speaking to Empire, Joe Russo said, "It was a story about the original six. That was the focus of the film, to conclude a 10-year saga about those characters. And Carol's a fairly new character." Not even, I mean, like, fairly is, I think, even an understatement. She is remarkably new, incredibly new, 6 and 7 weeks later type new, like a new kitten, like new, still new. And people really wanted her to play a bigger part in the movie. Why didn't Captain Marvel get a bigger part? Because she showed up at the end and single-handedly took out Thanos' ship and then held on to the gauntlet and was surrounded by all the other female Avengers for no real reason, because she can't be touched until Thanos, pulled off the Power Stone and then, Hadoukened her in the face with it, which then knocked her off camera. And we didn't see her again until Tony's funeral. So, like, that was it. You could remove that and find another way to shoot that scene. And again, nothing changes. Nothing changes. This is about the original six characters, the people we have an emotional investment into, the characters we have an emotional resonance into. We don't have that with her. Not yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It could entirely happen. But trying to push for this character right away just made so little sense to me. Now, Anthony added that Captain Marvel had no depth of relationship with the other characters in the film. On that one side, it's an opportunity, but also when you have a story that's this size and you have to work with an economy of storytelling in order to maximize the journey of the movie. Because Carol was starting from scratch with everybody else, you needed to do more work on a storytelling level. Now, they're 100% right with this one, but, and I'm just going to be a contrarian here because I can kind of toss it out there. What you have is a situation where 5 years had passed, and they clearly had been working with her for 5 years, and they clearly had established that relationship. If you want to know what would have been better than a Captain Marvel origin movie, is you don't even give her an origin movie. You just introduce the character and you have her solo film take place during those 5 years with those Avengers. Now that comes out maybe after the fact, or maybe, it'd have to come out after the fact, but it comes out after the fact. And then it's like, oh, now there's that emotional connection. She's worked with these people. Her and Rocket clearly had a vibe going on. They had a bit of friendly banter about the haircut. So there was that. And it's one of those elements too, where you're like, that's what you do. But instead you write this very bland, straightforward film that is not terrible, but not great. And it's very mediocre, very middle of the road, very safe, very play by the numbers. And you have this character who's so overpowered that it takes a Power Stone punch to the face in order to register any kind of actual impact. I don't know. I mean, it just, again, boring character. Now, Joe continued to explain that the character being elsewhere in the film highlighted just how big the MCU is and just how big its superhero jobs are, saying, "We love this idea that there are thousands of stories going on, and Carol, because of her abilities, is constantly in demand." Well, can she stay out there then for a while? Just stay out there for a little while longer until they can find someone who can write a personality? That'd be fantastic. Now, they also said here that apparently Endgame is going to have a different Black Widow storyline But I'm kind of happy with the way things turned out on that particular front. But when it comes to Captain Marvel, she was in the movie just enough. In the beginning, a little bit later, and then in the end. And that's it. And that's fine. It wasn't her journey. It wasn't her story. And if they would have tried to shoehorn her in, if Kevin Feige would have tried pushing for that, I think the movie would have been lesser as a result. And I think that it wouldn't have gone on to do as much money as it did. I could be wrong because Captain Marvel grossed as much as it did, right? It grossed as much as it did in the first 4 weeks. And it was even number 2 post Endgame. 357 million for Endgame, 8 million for Captain Marvel. That was the number 1 and number 2 spot. So obviously it benefited from that, but I'm glad what they did with the character. And now I hope that Kevin Feige takes a step back, looks at the abstract of who Carol Danvers is, and goes, okay, we need to clearly have some more personality here, because it's not like Brie Larson doesn't have personality. She's written so terribly that the personality just gets lost. And I can understand that in the context of her film, why personality gets lost given the Kree training for 5 years and all that stuff. I get that. But, she then went away for 20 years and came back and only had maybe 2% more personality, right? If we're playing a game in D&D, someone better roll a crit, because if not, her next movie, I don't think it's going to gross as much.